Welcome to Saddle Up Live, a transformative podcast tailored for women aged 40 and beyond, where courage, God's grace, and a touch of sass are the driving forces behind conquering life's challenges. Join me, Lesa Koski, as I take you on a captivating ride through the multifaceted aspects of womanhood in this vibrant stage of life, covering everything from my journey through breast cancer, the intricacies of marriage, and the joys of motherhood, to the exciting adventures of grandparenting. Together, we will uncover actionable strategies for personal and professional development, providing you with the tools and inspiration needed to blaze new trails and seize every opportunity that comes your way, no matter what your age or stage. Welcome, listeners. I am really excited for you to be here today. And this episode's going to be a little bit different. I've done some of these in the past where I don't have a guest. And the reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to be hitting the road and going on some other friends' podcasts. And the world that I'm in during work and prior to everything I've been through was the divorce world. And interestingly enough, what I have learned through my journey of the hard process of going through the breast cancer diagnosis and the treatment is that I want to share with you what I learned to strengthen me through the process. And I realized that kind of can equate to anything hard that we're going through. So, whether it's a divorce that you're going through, or a bad diagnosis, or something hard with your family, I feel like these 5 things that I strengthened helped my well being. And so I thought I can talk about that. It's not really related directly to any specific problem, but I think what I learned can help you through anything. It helped me and is still helping me. And I need to say, I'm a work in progress. Growing so much still, learning every day. And I'll share with you the things that I still really need to work on. So if you have any good tips, let me know. That's what I want to do. I want to help people. So I want to talk about these 5 categories that I strengthened. And I'm probably going to talk about them more and new things that I've learned along the way because it's such a journey. So I was a little bit nervous about this. I always am when talking about the breast cancer thing. And I've shared with my audience before, I so am a people pleaser, but I do feel like sharing it is going to help people. It's probably going to help me in a way too. So here's the deal. I'll give you just a really quick glance at all the things I'm going to talk about them. Some of them kind of overlap. And I'm going to try, I'm hoping that I can keep this brief. I'm usually pretty brief, but if I dig longer into one strength, this could be like a 2 segment series, but I'm going to try to get it done in one quick little 20-minute series. So here's the things that helped me through something really hard, which for me was the breast cancer diagnosis and the treatment. And the number one thing, and I've talked about this before, was strengthening my relationship with God. And I think that what was running amiss for me in that area was that I love learning and I love self growth and I love coaching, and all those things help me. But I didn't really run them through that tunnel of God first. And when you go through something hard, you are alone. And I'm going to talk about community too. Like, you need that community, but you're alone. And when I sat there all alone, Jesus was all I had. And I had such a great opportunity to strengthen that relationship because He was the only one that really knew what I was going through, and he was the only one that was really there with me. And I'm not putting down like my husband, my family, they all wanted to be there for me. But when you're going through something really hard, no one really understands except him. And so that kind of hit me over the head. Wow. And it really refined me. And I just want you to know. So, some of the things that I did to strengthen that, to be able to put everything at his feet and just stop worrying about it. And someday I'm going to tell you the story about what happened probably a month before that, where I was begging for God to please just take away my anxiety. Please just let me be able to lay everything at his feet. And then boom, this happened and I got to learn. But being able to do that and to count on him changed my life. And a good friend of mine told me about the Pause app. It's called Pause. And it really did help me. It helps you to restore that relationship with God. It walks you through, it's biblical, it's Christian. It walks you through how to just give it to Him, because that's all you can do. You really don't have a choice. And it's so freeing and so peaceful. And so it's just, that's one of the things that I did that has refined me. And another thing I think this taught me is I am not perfect and I don't have to be. Peter wasn't perfect. Daniel wasn't, no one was perfect in the Bible. Jesus, yes. And we can all work to be like him. But we're not here to be perfect. We're here to work towards being closer to God. So anything that I can do, trying to read my Bible every day, trying to, sometimes it's just one passage, whatever it is, being prayerful in everything makes me feel better. And oh my gosh, the gratitude, to be able to see gratitude in hard things makes you not feel the other things. So don't forget that. So even when you're in the midst of going through chemotherapy and you wake up and the sun is shining and you go, oh my gosh, thank you, God, that I feel good, that I can go out for a walk, that I have some time to rest, and that I have a great prognosis and I'm going to have a healthy life. There's so much to always be thankful for. There always is. So that was another thing, that gratitude was part of that. It was interwoven with that. So I'm talking about the strengthening my relationship with God. Then I'm going to talk about strengthening my relationship with people and community, strengthening my relationship or my food and fasting, strengthening physically. That's just strengthening. And then the last one I'm going to talk about is strengthening rest. I should have said that at the beginning, but I didn't. And that's how it's going to go. And I don't really edit. So sorry. But those are the things we're going to hopefully get through all today. Oh, there's one other thing I want to tell you about that I learned. I have been a person that always has questions. Should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? What school should my kids go to when they were growing up? My head can just go nuts. And a really good friend who I'm going to have on this podcast, she's amazing. She's the one who did my genetic test. She taught me this kind of meditative tool where I sit quietly and I think of a time when I was feeling lots of love. And it could be your wedding day. It could be the day you got engaged. It could be when you held your baby in your arms. Or I've had one that it has to do with my animal Charlie, my horse Charlie. But go to a moment where you felt a lot of love and then sit in that moment. Close your eyes and sit in that moment and see everything around you and feel that love again, feel what that felt like, and then say, where's God? Where is God here? And it's so interesting because sometimes I feel like God is way up high looking down at me. And sometimes, like some of them, when I'm rocking a grandbaby thought, he's right there. He's right there in my heart, like sitting here with me. And so I just feel that. And then I've got a pad of paper and I write, Dear Lesa, and I ask him the question, like, God, do you want me to do divorces? And then I write what I'm what I come up with. And then I say, love Jesus. And It has been so insightful, and I am someone that could go back and keep asking the same question. So sometimes I just go back and look through the journal that I have and I'm like, "Oh, I did already ask that and he did answer." And I can, a lot of times I'll put reasoning behind it, and it's how I came to strengthening my relationship with people. So when this first happened to me, it's just like it slaps you in the face and you, whoa, stop and look at your life and you think about how you want to live. And I knew one of the things I wanted to do was be a better wife because I think I had put a lot of stuff before my marriage. So that was one thing I learned. And then I also started really thinking about how I've been standoffish with people. Like I didn't want them to know me super well because then they might not like me or get really dig in and get really close. So I did one of these meditations and then I came up with do what you love in community. Because that's another thing. When I talk about strengthening my rest and rejuvenation, that's about fun, and I lost that. So then I started thinking about what things do I love to do? And of course, I love walking, I love working out, I love horses. And I started adding and I love holding my grandbaby. So grandma more, work less. So I started doing those things that I love in community. And it's changing my life. And it's so interesting, and I'm going to talk more about it when I get to the last subject of rest and rejuvenation, because that's the thing that was missing, really missing from my life. I think that prior to this, I was pretty healthy with food, pretty healthy with exercise, but I was not getting my rejuvenation. And I think a lot of us can get wrapped up in thinking we have to be somebody and work so hard, and we forget that you have to have the fun to in your life, the laughter, the joy to bring down that stress level, to give your body time to recuperate. And God wants us to have that. He told us to have a day of rest. So it's interesting how it all ends up being biblical. But I learned how to strengthen my relationship with people. And I had one of the things that I did was I had a prayer warrior group, and I also had family members that I didn't have the family members on the prayer warrior group. The warrior group is a group of friends, and some of them I don't see a lot, but people I wanted prayers. And so even though a lot of times I was super anxious and I felt, oh my gosh, I'm asking for way too much. They're going to think I'm nuts, or I'm asking, pray that my hair stays, or whatever dumb stuff. You think, oh, that's dumb. Why am I asking for prayer? But I kept going back and I kept asking them to pray for me. And that prayer warrior group was so essential because when you're going through chemo, you don't really want to be around a lot of people. You don't want to get sick. You want to be able to get through it. And having that's where having voice technology and the technology that we have where you don't have to actually be in front of people in a church but can reach out to them was amazing. And even though I felt I'm asking for way too much, I kept making myself because I knew I needed those prayers. And I've said this before, I will never forget driving into surgery. And that's when you're like going to learn a lot and you're scared to death. I'm scared to death of how things, some people aren't, but I am. And it was such a dark day, but I had a supernatural peace. And I swear I could just feel like the angels and all the prayers riding along with me in the car as I went to the hospital. And it gave me strength. It wasn't fun. It was horrible, but there was a strength there that I never would have had. And that was my community. And that community stayed with me as I went through everything. And I am forever grateful to that. And now I'm going to a workout class. I'm calling my friends to go horseback riding. I'm going on walks with people. I'm not hiding and I would always use the excuse I'm an introvert. I don't know that I am really an introvert. I think I was just more concerned about always having to be happy and bubbly and look perfect and not make a mistake. And when you can start letting that go, I'm not going to say that I don't still fall prey to that? I do, sadly. And it's going to be something that I'm going to need to keep working on that. God keeps showing me. I even say this with my husband. I try to make myself look better than I am, and that's wrong and unauthentic. It's not authentic, and it's you can't how can someone love you when you don't show them who you truly are? So, those first 2 are big ones, and I just am looking at the clock going, "Oh, this is gonna be a two-part series because I've talked way too long about God and community." But those are 2 really important things. And I'm just going to touch on food. And if you wanna go back, I do have a podcast that I did about thriving through breast cancer treatment, and I talk a little bit about food, but I really went all in during my treatment because I knew that it would help my body fight. It would help my body be attracted to the chemo or the radiation, to not have sugars. And so, even though I had always been pretty healthy, there were things I was lacking. And if you go back and listen to that podcast, you'll hear probably more about this, but I'm just going to restate. I think one thing that I was doing that wasn't healthy was probably having a glass of wine too much, maybe 5 nights a week, or with dinner, or when you ate Italian or steak. There was always a reason to unwind. Peanuts and wine were my favorite. And so through chemo, I didn't have any wine because I thought I'm putting so many toxins in. I don't want to put more because your body's got to work through that. And like I said, that past podcast will talk more about that. But what was so interesting was what helped me through the chemo helps me through my everyday life. I have lost weight, and I probably for the first time in my life don't care and feel good. I feel good at my weight. And it's been, I want to say it is simple, but it probably took me going through this to get used to the idea of rarely having a glass of wine. I'll have a glass of wine if I go to a winery or a nice dinner with friends, but now I have a stevia ginger ale rather than a glass of wine sometimes if I'm having something. And another thing that I learned, I was doing a lot of fasting, but I think I was doing it wrong. I was going really hard where I would do a 48-hour or a 72-hour fast, and then I would jump back into normal eating and having my wine. And I think it was stressful on my body. So, what I learned is that just simply that intermittent fasting of stop eating at 6 or 7 and then reintroduce food. I think they want you to fast for 16 hours and then have your eating window be that 8 hours. I've been really working on, and this is part of, I want to talk more about genetics, and I'm going to have Marie on because I looked at my genetic makeup. I know what I need to eat. And so it is always good to have healthy proteins, be organic as much as you can. For my body, I really need a lot of vegetables and fruits because it needs to be able to clean my cells out. And I think I was probably more focused on proteins, and I think I was eating too many dairies. So I stay away from glutens and dairies, but I don't freak out. If I if there's a little bit of blue cheese on my salad, I eat it. I am careful about dressings. Use I don't use packaged stuff as much as I can, but like I said, if I go to a restaurant, sometimes I'll see if they have oil and vinegar, and sometimes I'll get the dressing that they have. So I'm doing my best, and I'm working on not being perfect, but most of the time when I'm eating at home, I'm eating lots of fruits and vegetables and lots of healthy proteins. I do eat lots of meat. I want to start eating more fish because of my genetic makeup. I know that I need fish, and my husband loves it. I think I'm the one that kind of shies away from it. So these were the things that I did. So the intermittent fasting is easy. It's not easy if you're snacking with a glass of wine every night. And so there are still times, and I did have popcorn last night with my ginger ale when we were playing Yahtzee, and I let myself do that sometimes. But for the most part, during the week, I do stop eating early and then I start a little bit later in the day. And that has brought down my inflammation, and along with probably the gluten and the dairy, which we don't want inflammation in our body. And ah, I feel better. I don't ever feel sore, or I do if I work out hard, but not stiff. And I'm on medications that could have really bad side effects that do that. And so I feel like I'm giving myself a new life by just eating foods, healthy foods that are not processed. I love going to the co-op and grabbing some broccoli and making a beef vegetable soup. And I'm having so much fun with that. And it really does taste good. And I still have dark chocolate because it's good for me. And I love that cocoa in my coffee. And that has changed my life. I have not gained any weight back. I've lost a lot through this. And I just think that it's a better way to live. And so that's a blessing of going through cancer. It's going to help me to be more healthy through the rest of my life, and not to mention feeling better. So now I get to feel better and be at the weight that I want it to be for years, and be stronger and healthier and live a longer life because of what I've learned. And like I said, I was doing it, but not really. And I think my thing was probably mostly the wine, and maybe packaged a little bit too many packaged foods. Making things from scratch has become fun for me. And what's hard is I feel bad for moms who are working all the time. I think about this, and you're trying to eat healthy. It is not easy because you do have to put the time in. And now I do have more time. So my heart goes out to you. And I just say, do the best you can. And also, let that be enough. Do the best that you can, be aware of it. And that's more than what you were doing before, to just know, yeah, I'm gonna choose this over this. So, and I do want to go in and talk about food more. And then the last things that we're going to talk about, which I don't have time for because I blabbed on, and I feel like it was fun, but I feel like I maybe went off on tangents. So I apologize. These are a little bit hard to do, but it is also fun because I feel like I'm sitting down having a cup of coffee with my friends, which I love. And so we're going to stop there. We're going to stop at strengthening your relationship with God, with people, with food. And then I'm going to do another one next week. And I'm just going to talk about physical strengthening and how what I've learned about exercise and health. And then probably the most important thing that I still need to learn more about is rest and rejuvenation, strengthening that. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what I've been doing. I'm still not there, but of course, we're going to talk about a little bit about the fun again and breath work. So that'll be coming up next week. So this is a 2-part series, but I really appreciate you being here. And if there's something that you would like me to explore, or someone that you think is amazing that I should have on as a guest, I've got a couple coming up. I'm doing a couple new recordings on Thursday. But anyone that you can think of that you think would be amazing on Saddle Up Live, I would love to have them. And I'm so grateful that you're here. And I'm just so grateful for my life, and the sun is shining. And this has been the most beautiful fall. And I joke about, we were at an apple orchard with my grandkids, and my son Jack is like, it is so hot. It doesn't even feel like we are, like, this is fall stuff. And I'm like, that's because God's giving me a little summer because I didn't have one. So I feel like I'm getting the best of both worlds. We're getting a little cool weather rolling in. But I just say, God bless you. Thank you for listening. And I will be back next week with those last 2 things that we can work on to strengthen. Take good care.
Thank you for tuning in to another empowering episode of Saddle Up Live. As we conclude this exhilarating journey together, don't forget to subscribe, share your thoughts, and become a valued member of our vibrant community. Because, as always, every woman deserves to thrive, flourish, and live her best life. Until the next time, saddle up and keep conquering those trails.